What's happening, fishing friends? It is April. Somehow it slipped by me a little bit. It's like already the 3rd, and I didn't even realize it. For those of you that know or wondering, I am recovering from surgery, doing much better this week, getting around pretty well. I'm back to work, that kind of thing. Cracking my Coors Light. And today we're going to talk about my must-haves for April. And I grabbed a little assortment here. Most of these probably aren't too big of a surprise. Maybe they are, I don't know. But anyway, we'll just run through them real quick. Thanks for clicking on the video. Like, subscribe if you enjoy the content. I just share my experience here, okay? I'm not trying to sell you nothing. I'm not sponsored by anybody. I am a member of RB Bass. You can check them out, rbbass.net. Or you can just search RB Bass, okay? It's a website. We got videos, YouTube channel, all kinds of stuff. Anyway, it's a big group of people, bass fishermen, much like ourselves. They just love fishing and they share the experience, okay? So number one, probably shouldn't be a surprise because this has been on the list for quite a while, is the old chatterbug, right? Chatterbait. This is not a Z-Man, and this is, look, in most of my jig, chatterbait, spinnerbait, all that kind of stuff, I talk about rubber collars and how I hate them, and this is why. See? Now, not too big a deal because I do tie my own jigs. I also buy jigs. So I'll just tie a new skirt onto that. I have everything. But if I was out on the water, it would be a big deal. And just so you know, the rubber collar they use to hold that skirt on, it's all sticky and nappy, and yeah. Anyway, chatterbait. Great bait to cover water with, as we all know. Catches big fish. What can you say? Got to have a chatterbait on the deck in April. And probably really doesn't matter which side of the country you're on. Quite honestly, they'd eat that just fine, right? That was a fire craw. Fire craw and green pumpkin would be my two colors. I really like green pumpkin to start because I can vary trailers to mimic different things, right? You could put spunk shad on there in a sunfish type color and you're mimicking bluegill. You can put a green pumpkin twin tail on the back, mimic crawdads. So it's pretty easy to mess around with. And then once I determine if they're eating that well, if they're eating the chatterbait really well, then that would be when I'd go to the fire craw and look to expect to get a bigger bite. Now, what I will say about this, and this was a brand that was selling years ago, chatterbait, or Z-Man threatened to sue them. They stopped making them. This is a badass hook. I mean, this thing has caught so many fish, it's still freaking sharp as can be. All right, so I love them. When the skirt comes off, I make a new skirt, tie it on. All right, next, staying with the covering water theme, is going to be some sort of swim bait. Okay, this is a Zal Dangerous loaded, or Dangerous loaded. This is the shallow version. Again, covering water, okay? The way I fish, I don't burn up the bank necessarily. I'm looking for groups of fish. I typically target staging fish. And then once I find those areas they're staging in, then I might start moving in and picking things apart. Okay, so I like chatterbait, swim bait are gonna be my two. Look, I got a lot of other things rigged. When I start practice next week, I will have a lot of rods rigged up. Okay, and it's just really a process of elimination. Haven't been on that lake in a while. I have 1, 2, 3, 3.5, 4 days of practice. So we start out with a lot and we try and narrow things down. Again, it's spring, so you still expect to throw quite a few different things. I always do. My next one that I will have on all the time is a Senko. Okay, 5-inch Senko, 6-inch Senko, depending on the waters you're fishing. An alternate could be the Jackal Flick Shake. We've talked about that in one of my other videos. At times, this thing is way, way better, more effective than this. Okay? These are great. The Senko I like to throw weightless, and I like throwing it around docks, especially when I see the fish hovering up in the upper water column. The Flick Shake can be good for the same thing, but typically, since you throw this on a light-weighted head, it's a little better for fish that are down a little bit. Again, I throw this in staging areas, just around fan casting, especially if you're the non-boater. This is a great bait to kind of fan cast around if your boater is bed fishing or something like that. Speaking of bed fishing, here in California, in Northern California, you have to expect that there is going to be some fish bedding. Now, I know right now the water's still in the 50s, but we have some weather that's looking like it'll start warming up next week. I actually expect the water to be probably around 60 for the tournament, 60, 62, based on what we're seeing in the long-term forecast right now. And one of my favorite bed baits, and again, in another video, I talked about a unique rigging of this, but it's a boom boom tube, okay? Reaction Innovations boom boom tube. The color I choose is sprayed grass. I will rig this in a typical pegged, flipping type fashion Texas rig. But the other rig that I'll use when bed fishing is I will put this on a flashy swimmer. Yeah, with the blade. I don't know why. they seem to attack it. Okay? It's give it a try. Let me know how it works out for you. And last but not least, and again, folks, like I said, I'm going to have a ton of baits rigged up. Every day is different. Always changing, looking for new things. But the 7-inch Robo Worm is a must-have for me. On Clear Lake, where we're going, always, but especially in the springtime. And I don't really like throwing the drop shot. It's not my thing. I want the big stick in my hand and I want heavy line. But the bottom line is it works. They eat it. And sometimes as you progress on into the tournament, this is a 3-day tournament. I will practice 4 days. I'm sure there's already people there practicing or will be going up this week. So there's a lot of pressure on the lake. So as you progress into the tournament, sometimes you need to back off the power fishing a little bit and try a little more finesse. Not that I'll necessarily throw that on light line. I will Bubba shot it more often than not. On like a 7'3" medium heavy rod with 15-pound test, and probably a 3/8 to half-ounce weight. And I'll Texas rig it, throw it back in the tulies, up under docks, whatever. It just works, okay? Those are my baits for April. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. Like, subscribe. We'll see you on the next one.